Can you make a lot of money flipping houses? Sure, but it's a very steep learning curve. You're gonna have to know material costs, labor costs, how long a project takes, in what order to put your projects in. It's a lot. But you have to know these things in order to get your budget dialed in. It's easy to go over budget on flipping houses because you always run into things that you weren't aware of in your initial due diligence. We're dealing with older homes here, so there's always an issue that you don't know in the beginning. So for that sake, I always budget in 20% more of what I think the flip is going to cost in order to protect me for those unforeseen problems. But all that being said, the hardest part is finding a good contractor. You want to find somebody who's going to give you a fair price, get the job done, and do it correctly. And that's hard, especially in today's world. So if you're brand new and just getting started in real estate, or even if you're an experienced real estate investor, this is the strategy that I would personally recommend and one that I use quite often in my business, and very seldom do I ever do traditional fix and flips. It's called wholetailing. And essentially what that is you're mixing wholesaling with fixing and flipping. So you're gonna buy the property, do minimal amounts of work, and then put it right back on the market. What we typically end up doing is landscaping, a trash out, get the property professionally cleaned, and then if there's any kind of major issues that need addressing, then we'll get those taken care of so that our buyer can come in and use traditional financing. Now, if the property is in extreme disrepair, we won't even do that. We might just do a clean out and the landscaping and put it back on the market and sell it as is and let another investor come in and handle all the work. And the reason we do that is when you're on market on the MLS, you're gonna get the highest offer rather than what you would get if you personally reached out to these investors. You're just gonna have a lot more people out there who are looking at your property, a lot more eyes on it. So therefore you're able to create a lot more urgency and also a bidding war amongst your buyers. So the biggest hurdle with this strategy is obviously gonna be the capital. Now there's three ways that you can buy this property. Number one is gonna be cash. Obviously, if you have the cash in the bank, you can go out and buy the property, but most people don't. However, a lot of people do have a lot of equity in their home, which is typically most people's biggest asset. So I would recommend, if you have a lot of equity, pulling that equity out and putting it to work in an investment property or some type of investment. That way you can have your money working hard for you, just like you work hard for your money. Number two is going to be a hard money lender. They typically require you bring anywhere from 15 to 25% down, depending on how much experience you have and or your financial stability. Now, the great thing about hard money lenders, other than the fact they're gonna cover about 80% of the purchase price, is many of them will cover 90 to 100% of the renovations. On the downside to that is you're gonna have to have that money for the renovations, and then they will reimburse you after you've done the renovations. And you can set that up in draws, and they'll have you come out and get camera photos of the completed work in order to get that money. And it's also geolocated so that they know you're in the actual property that you say you are. If you're looking for a good hard money lender, I'll leave a link in the description below of the company that I personally use. And number three, my personal favorite, is going to be a private money lender. Now, I always recommend going with family and friends first, but as you gain experience, then you'll be able to network and gain other private money lenders, which are people who are actually looking to get a higher rate of return on their money. The great thing about private money lenders, well, first off, you're not using any of your money, any of your credit, but you're also able to close the deal a lot faster if you have access to private money loans. Now, typically with a private money lender, we're giving them anywhere from 12 to 20%. But in the beginning, you may have to give them a portion of the proceeds from the deal. So in the beginning, I would give sometimes 50% away of the deal just because I needed that money in order to get experience and get a reputation. As you build experience and reputation, then you can start lowering the amount of the return that you give to your private money lenders. But that all comes with trust. So in the beginning, you have to be willing to give away some equity in order to build that relationship with this private money lender. So let's give a real world example of how I use this strategy in my business. This property was actually on market, and when I spoke to the seller, he was under contract to buy another home and he didn't want to make 2 mortgage payments. His first buyer came in and they were under contract for about 3 weeks whenever he pulled out due to not being able to get financing. He shortly after got his second buyer to come in, and during the home inspections, they found termites and also some foundation issues, which scared this first-time home buyer, and they pulled out. So at this point, he's now making 2 mortgages, and He's also been on market for 3 months and had 2 buyers that have pulled out on him. So he was in distress, and I told him that I would pay $90,000 for the property. He originally had this property on market for $140,000 and went under contract very fast. After it fell out of contract with the first buyer, he dropped it to $130,000. It went under contract again very fast. So I knew that the purchase price for this property, as long as there wasn't anything that came back in the inspection crazy, was around that $140,000 or so mark. So we went in there after I purchased the property at $89,000. We went in there and we spent about $4 or $5 grand. We got the termite issue corrected. We had a termite bond put on it. We got the foundation issue corrected. We also replaced a couple of issues where there was some water damage. And then we got the landscaping and professional cleaning done on the property. We then put that property back on market for $150,000. And we went under contract in about 8 or 9 days. Now the beauty of all this is I didn't use any of my own money. I had a private money lender come in at $100,000, so they get a first position mortgage and lien against the property, protecting them. And I ended up giving the seller $89,000. So after closing costs, I walked away with around $8,000, which covers the $5 grand that I put in the repairs. So all in right now, I'm sitting at around $96,000 or so. Put the house on market for $150,000. After we pay the 2.5% to our agent, and after we pay our private money lender off, we'll probably walk away with somewhere around $43,000 on this property. Now you're gonna see a lot more of this strategy as regulation comes down on wholesalers. Many states are cracking down, so you can't do traditional wholesaling. So you're gonna need to get capitalized in order to do this strategy and continue turning and burning these properties, which essentially is going to be the new wholesaling in real estate. If you like this video and you want to know how to get started in real estate with little to no money, watch this video right here.